Before I introduce our keynote speaker, I want to remind everyone that we will host a question and answer session at the completion of the speech. Please use the WE22 mobile app to submit your questions. To submit a question, navigate to the keynote session in the app. On the bottom of the screen, press Submit a Question. There you can enter your question and hit Submit. We often can't get to everyone's questions, but she may just be available for a second follow-up podcast after this, should we get a bunch of really great questions, which, seeing what we've seen so far this conference, is likely. Today's keynote is Michele Sullivan. She was born with a rare form of dwarfism, and in spite of being looked down upon by others, she learned to look up, lead with an elevated view of others, and by embracing this philosophy, landed at the helm of one of the world's most prominent philanthropy organizations, the Caterpillar Foundation. Michele offers a unique perspective and inspiration for individuals that attest to the fundamental roles one's perspective plays in life. We thrive because of others, not in spite of them, and should utilize our village for support daily. As an author, her book, Looking Up, is more than the story of Michele's life and career. It is a guidebook on how she embraced her differences, turned them into assets, and came to recognize that there was a strength within her that could help others. Everyone, please welcome Michele Sullivan.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a privilege to be here. I mean, can you feel the compassion, the passion, the estrogen, the brain power in this room? I mean, how often does this happen? And I want to thank SWE and Dana and the sponsors for letting me be here. And a special thank you to Stacy Del Vecchio is in the audience. And she's a great friend of mine from Caterpillar, and she's the one that asked me if she could put my name in to be a possible speaker. So thank you, Stacy, as well. So what a privilege to be here. And I want to start out by telling you that, you know, I was born with a very rare form of dwarfism. And so you could say it's a bit of a challenge. A few decades ago, I'll tell you, I retired from Caterpillar after 30 years, so that can kind of give you an idea of my age. But for me and my whole life, I've learned that resiliency is key, because we all know that we have ups and downs. Has anybody noticed it in the past 2.5 years? Anything different about our life and everything, right? And that's another reason it feels so good to be here. This is the first time in 2.5 years that I've actually spoken in person. So I was so excited, you know, I was like breaking out. Yes. Yes. We are resilient, aren't we? And so, you know, there are times, especially in the past 2.5 years, but even in your life at home and also at work, do you ever feel that you're in a vulnerable place anytime? Usually all the time, right? And so this is a picture of after my 8th grade graduation. I had to go to Baltimore, Johns Hopkins, and I started a series of orthopedic surgeries. And so when the summer ended and someone said, Michele, how did you spend your summer vacation? This is how I spent my summer vacation. So about 3 months I was in my cast after I had a series of surgeries. And it also taught me a lot of things, because being at Johns Hopkins as a research hospital, people come there from all over the world, and a lot of times it was as their last hope. They have serious medical problems and they can't find help anywhere else. And I was just there for a hip problem. So even at 13, I noticed that I was very fortunate in my life, even though there are different struggles that I have. We all have them. Obviously, you can see that my size and my orthopedic issues can be a bit of a struggle, but everybody has struggles, and a lot of the struggles that we have is you can't see them. That's why we always have to go through life with a lot of grace and forgiveness, because you never know what someone's going through. And so, yep. So I'm showing my age again. Anybody know what a weeble wobble is? So we used to play with those all the time at my house, and it was interesting because for some reason that toy has always stuck with me, and not just because I'd get knocked down in school all the time and have to get back up. I was always the one that got run over in the hallways. But really, whenever something would happen, my parents would always say, you know, you still have to get up and you have to go on. That is what life is about. And they told me that, you know, life is not a straight street. It's a street with many curves in life, many hills and valleys and peaks, you know, and hopefully your peaks are more than your valleys. But really, especially in these last 2.5 years, or as you're working between home and work and all what that entails, we do have to keep in mind that we can bounce back when somebody or something happens. And a lot of people these days also are of the sandwich generation. Is anybody helping with their parents and have children all at the same time? Yep. And it's called the sandwich generation. And so there's a lot going on in the world. And in some ways, COVID helped because we were at home a lot more. And yet, you also were with everybody in the house all at once. So you also learned what togetherness was. But a lot of people, you know, a lot of good things came out of COVID. They say innovation went ahead at least a decade. A lot of people had their adult children come home from college, etc. My neighbor, their 3 kids were in college, and within a week, they were all back home at once for the first time in several years. And you know, it really was a couple years that you're never going to get back with things like that. We also checked on our neighbors, etc. And we all learned above all else, the world is one. We are one people. We all were struck with the COVID pandemic. And yet here we are in Houston, back together, better than ever. So remember that weeble wobble in your life. Yes. What's interesting is you hear the word, you know, we always want our kids to be independent. When we were younger, we were brought up that, you know, we should be independent, which is true to a point. And as I was writing the book, and it's really more about the people who I looked up to in my life and who looked up to me and really supported me. Because I look up literally to people, obviously being 4 feet tall, but figuratively, I look up to so many people, especially when I worked at Caterpillar for the 30 years and the last 7 years with the foundation, and I traveled the world, and we did investments in some of the poorest areas of the world. And so when you look at these people who you might feel sorry for living in poverty, which certainly is an element, when you go and visit them, they have the same aspirations and dreams for themselves and their family as we do. So it's everywhere, and yet we're supposed to still be independent. But think about all the things that you have accomplished in life. Just think about a couple in your mind. And can you tell me that you did it all by yourself, or were there a group of people behind you along the way, probably over a long period of time? And of course, I had that with my parents. You know, they fought for me to be mainstreamed in school, and they put me in an organization called Little People of America. My mom read about it, if anybody knows what the Reader's Digest is. And it was for people who, you know, are little people, and I got in at 12, and it really just changed my whole life. Not only could I see people eye to eye for the first time, but I found out that I wasn't the only one. Because I came from Peoria, Illinois, which is not a big city, and there's not a lot of little people around, and I always wondered, am I the only one? And my mom would always say, no, but you can't prove it because we didn't know anybody else. So when I got in this organization, it really changed a lot for me. One, I knew I wasn't alone, and two, we're all going through the same thing. And LPA really stressed education and independence in terms of, how we live and everything. But I knew early on that I needed an education because I was not going to have a physical job. I was not going to go out into construction or a job that had a lot of travel and a lot of walking, etc. That was not going to be an option for me. So early on, I knew that my pathway was to college. And my parents, of course, knew that way before I did. But they also made sure that I had the education so that I was also ready to go to college and everything else that I needed. So a lot of my surgeries were before I got to college. So living an independent life, in one respect, is a true statement. But also, I believe that an interdependent life is one that we all live. Because we live and thrive because of people. Look around you. You're thriving this week, aren't you? Don't you notice how you're lively and you've met people and it just reinvigorates you because you're here for this week. And we really do thrive on interdependence. And so when you think about going out and back to work and at home, really be a part of, other people's lives and help them along, because we should walk beside people, even though you don't know what they're truly walking in their shoes, but we can always walk alongside them and support them. And people return that to us. Because think about all the times, even in the last 2.5 years, that we have needed help. And then also, if something happens at home, or you need help with the kids, there's always people there for you because you've been there for other people. So remember, we thrive because of people, not in spite of them. And words are so important. Words can melt a heart or they can break a heart. And people always remember how you make them feel when you leave. And so when you leave someone, even like tomorrow when everybody's heading out to the airport, some people are going to have flight problems probably, and you want to really talk to that lady at the counter. You're going to step back and go, "How's your day going?" Maybe take her a cup of coffee because somebody's yelling at her, right? And so remember, words can melt a heart or they can break a heart. And remember that when you go to the airport tomorrow. And I'll probably see some of you there. So a big concept for me as a child was when we'd come home from school and we would eat at the kitchen table, which is hard to do today because the kids are involved in so many activities, etc. It's hard to actually have a meal, isn't it? To have everybody together and not running out the door with 2 kids and leaving one behind or something. And so we would come together and my mom and dad would always ask every night, "So what did you learn in school? What happened today? What were your ups? What were your downs?" And the fun things, especially in grade school would be, well, Johnny puked in the hallway. It was just so cool. The janitor came and, they got everybody out of the hallway. You're a kid, right? That was exciting. Right? Forget about math, and then they'd say, "No, really, what happened next?" Well, recess, Johnny pushed, down, da-da-da. And after about 5 minutes, they'd get to, "So, what did you learn in school today?" "Oh, nothing." "Yeah, nothing." And they'd go, and this was every day, "Nothing? Yeah, we didn't learn anything." "Well, what, did you have math?" "Yeah." "Well, what, well, I know 2 + 2 is 4 now." "Well, that's good. We're making headway." And, what about science, "Oh, they poured this stuff and it flew out of the thing all over this gook," things like that. But what they were doing is really getting us to think about what our day was like and what we really did learn. And it also brought us together as a family, and we really got to see each other's ups and downs, even though we were in the same school. When you hear about, my older brother, what happened on the other end of the building in the upper grades, and I'm in the lower grades, you really got to learn a lot. And so I call it my kitchen table because whenever in life you have something that drastically happens, whether it's good or bad. And I know we immediately think about something bad. If you get a bad diagnosis, or you get that phone call in the middle of the night that we all dread, but also happy times. There's always a small group of people around you that you're on the phone with, right? Sarah, guess what? He asked me out. Or something like that, right? But seriously, I'll give an example of something positive. I always wanted to work in the foundation. I've been in not-for-profit. It started with LPA as a teenager, and I've worked in it my whole life, and I love it. And we are a Caterpillar family. My dad retired from CAP. My sister still works there. I retired from there. My uncles work there. We have yellow blood. And, yep. So when you think about it, the foundation brought those two things together. So only 4 people or 5 people had had the presidency of the foundation since 1952. So it didn't change very often. And with about 10 years left, the job switched. I didn't know it was open, but it was open and someone got the job. And I really thought, you know, that was my chance. I have to shift my thinking now because that's not gonna happen. And then lo and behold, 3 years later, I was in one of the facilities traveling, and I was with the product manager, and he took a break, and I looked at my phone, and my boss goes, Michelle, call me. I have an opportunity. And the first idea is, well, don't call, because anytime your boss says they have an opportunity, you just don't call. So I thought, that can wait till the end of the day. And I'll just say I was in meetings all day, which is true, right? Now, come on. Have you all not done that? All right. I'm not going to have you raise your hand. So I get around and I call. I said, hey, Leslie, sorry, I was busy all day. Oh, that's okay. Hey, something happened today. I said, oh, what is it? She goes, the foundation job came open. My first thought was, dang, I should have called this morning. That did not work. So I go, really? And she goes, yes. And she goes, are you interested? I go, of course I am. Does a bear poop in the woods? Of course I'm interested. She goes, I thought so. So I said, you know, we were in the heat of a very big project at work, and you know how that goes. Usually you can't leave a job in that, but you know, Leslie was so unselfish. She knew that's what I wanted, and so everybody puts in for it. It's one of the most wanted jobs at Caterpillar, to be honest with you. And so I was optimistic, but cautiously optimistic, because everybody wants a job, and it's a very visible job. The CEO picks the job, and you know, to be honest, I felt very vulnerable. I'm 4 feet tall, and is Big Yellow gonna put me in the front of investing all of this money into, you know, the foundation and ultimately to people who need it? And so I was a little bit of a realist also, but I knew that I had a great work reputation, and I knew what I would do at the foundation. And what really got me prepared for the interview, there were 3 people that got to interview, and I was one of them. So right there, I thought that was a win. And I also knew that all these years, Caterpillar had given me all these opportunities with no blips. I mean, I had every opportunity everybody else did. And I had jobs in dealer marketing, I had jobs in parts, I had jobs in new product introduction, which meant I worked with all the facilities around the world. I had the dealer experience, I worked in product support. I started in IT, believe it or not. And so all along the way, as I saw the foundation work, all these jobs came into play that I thought we could decentralize the grant making and ask the facilities around the world within the strategy what organizations can do the work within our strategy that we should invest in, and run the foundation like a business with an ROI. because the foundation is really like the Shark Tank. Let's say we wanted to invest in access to water. We would have 100 organizations come in, and you really treat the money of the foundation like it was the money of the company or your own money. You know, who gives us the best return on that investment? We owe that to our employees and the customers and the dealers who earn that money. And so when I interviewed, I was ready because I used all my past experiences and all the things I learned and how all of that could pivot into the foundation. And so I interviewed that day, and it was good, but I knew, you know, there were 2 other people. And so I was on it traveling again, and I was at another facility with the product manager, and the note came in, Michelle, call me. So then I said, do you mind if we take a bathroom break? See, I learned. It got me once, it wasn't gonna get me again. And even if I didn't get the job, to get the interview, I thought it was a true win. And I was very grateful that they gave me that interview. And what's interesting is I interviewed for my first job out of graduate school at Caterpillar. I was co-oping at IBM at the time. And I interviewed for it ended up being my last position. I had 23 years with the company, and I knew that would be I hoped it would be my last position. And it was interesting, all along the way, I never interviewed for another job. And I always was assigned positions where it was kind of muddy, undefined, or broken, and I thrive in that. Give me something that doesn't work or you don't know what to do with it. And I love that. And I think part of it is because anytime I go out, I always have to plan ahead. What if the car doesn't start? I can't just get in any other car. I have pedals on my car and that, so I can't just get in another car. What if I get to the place and I need to go to the 14th floor and I get in the elevator and I can reach to 4? I can't reach 14. I gotta wait either till somebody comes in the elevator or I wait by the elevator until people come and then I act like I just got there and go, oh, okay, can you hit 14 for me, please? And you know, that's really interesting because you know, when I first interviewed for CAT, I'll give you an example. My mom happened to mention to her friend that I was interviewing at CAT at the headquarters. Remember, this was 30, soon to be 5 years ago. And her friend's husband worked there, and he said, you know, there's a whole flight of steps in the front door of the world headquarters. Back then, you know, accessibility was not top of mind. And it got back to me, and I said, you're kidding. So I called the interviewer, Chuck. I said, Chuck, I need to explain that. You know, I can't go up steps. So I understand that there's a flight of steps in the front door. He goes, oh, I didn't know that. You know, from my resume, he didn't know, which was lovely. And so he goes, let me get back to you. And he called me a few hours later. He said, I got it. I go, great. He goes, you're going to come in through the loading dock. I go, great. And I'm like, I hope I don't get run over, you know? It's like, wow, at least after the interview maybe, but not before. It would ruin everything. But it's things like that, you know, it turns out and it works its way through everything. And, you know, they were so open, you know, and back then, to be honest, you know, that just didn't happen. You know, we're still battling a lot of disabilities, et cetera. And remember, not all disabilities you can see. But they've been so open to me. And then they called and they said, Michelle, we'd like to offer you the position. I was in the bathroom, thank God, because I lost it. And then when I got back and I went into my new boss's office, he said, I want to play you something. And he played the Audix from the CEO. And it was, you know, he knew me because I used to sit across from him when he was a VP. And we always came in early. So he knew my work and knew about me. And he goes, of course we're going to pick Michelle. Who else would be blah, 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 blah. And I just sat there. And he goes, are you going to take the job? Yeah. So I went home and I got my kitchen table together, which was my mom and my sister. Because I knew with the travel, I couldn't do it by myself. And that's what I mean by having your kitchen table. I got my kitchen table together for something really good. And they say, you've been waiting for this, you go get it. And I did, I went and got it because of them. So that's your kitchen table. Yep. And remember to be part of other people's kitchen tables. You have more than one kitchen table. At work, at family, the girlfriends, family before the holidays. You got to get your kitchen table together because there's going to be drama probably. So, you have various kitchen tables, but it's very important to be part of others. And as you notice, asking for help is a strength, not a weakness. I did a whole TED Talk on this because it's so important. My whole life is asking for help. But it also means you have to be vulnerable, and nobody likes that feeling. Did anybody feel vulnerable in the last 2.5 years? You couldn't quite put your finger on it with the pandemic, but didn't you have that heavy feeling, like what's going to happen and all this? And it's very important, no matter what you do, that you ask for help when you need it. Being women, it's so important because we never put ourselves first, especially when you have a family or a spouse. And so really think and take the time, talk to your kitchen table, ask for help when you need it, and let that vulnerability show through, because we all are vulnerable all the time. It's just whether we let it show and we act upon it. Because if you don't take the time for yourself, you're not as good as you can be, not only for yourself, but for others. When you are at your best and feeling your best, like being here, you're kind of away from home and work a little bit. You may check your email at break, but not too much, because you're busy, right? So things like this is good, but really go farther than that, and really take care of yourself, because as women, the buck stops with you. I mean, most women, you are the engineer at home, the social engineer, taking care of the kids, the kitchen, everything. And I realize that. And so, things don't run if you're not at your best. And sometimes you have to say, you know what? I'm going to go do something today for myself. You take care of the home. And if, they say anything, you just say, I need to get away. And don't be afraid to go do whatever makes you happy. And when I wake up in the morning, I always say a prayer and say a blessing. And when I go to bed, I do it, because it reminds me I'm still here. And I have to be at my best. So don't be afraid to ask for help. How did I get home from Baltimore? I couldn't fly commercial. I couldn't sit up. My dad, who's on the left, was a superintendent of CAT, not an executive of any kind, went to his boss. I can't imagine my dad doing this. I need help. I need to get my daughter home. I can't get her home. The company flew the corporate jet out. They took out the one row of seats, put a hospital bed, had a nurse. Everything was going great. For you engineers, do you see a problem? When you get on the plane tomorrow and you turn right to go down the aisle, I want you to think of me. It didn't work. Nobody thought of that. Well, the people, of course, at CAT didn't realize how I was. So as you can tell, my dad, I won't say what he's thinking, way ahead of WTF or OMG, I'm sure. But he's thinking, what am I going to do? He's looking at my mom, he's going, what are we going to do? And the guy holding me by the rump says, let's flip her on her side. This is 7 days after 2 weeks of 10-hour surgeries twice. He flipped me on my side, and I made it. How about that? But I can't imagine my dad going and explaining. Can you think about it? How hard back then, even today, for you to go in and say, I need help to get my daughter home. I can't get her home. Can you help me somehow? And this is what they did. So we all need help. Don't be afraid to ask, because we all need it. But you have to make the first move. Yep. We have to make the first move. So one time in second grade, it was raining and we couldn't go out to recess. And a teacher said, we're going to learn how to play chess. Great. So lo and behold, not only did I like it, I actually was pretty good with it. And I went on and played a lot of tournaments, and I was really debating about being a chess master as a career. And so I decided not to, but when I was in grade school, and I'd go into an auditorium about this size, and it had hundreds of tables, one big aisle, you had to find the table you were going to play at. And when I would walk in all the time, all the kids would stop. You know, you're not used to seeing a little person. And as we got older, of course, the height difference grew, right? They grew, I didn't. So I hated going in. I just hated it because I knew everything would stop and they'd watch me go right up the aisle to check in. You know, nobody talked to me, and I just hated it. But I knew I could play chess. And this one particular tournament, I'd climb up on my chair and I'd have to sit on my knees to see. And the first game, I beat the kid in 2 moves. It wasn't because I was good. He was so busy looking at me. He made the wrong move. There's only one way to do that, and you had to move that pawn out. And I go, I got you, man. And so when I said checkmate, he still. He didn't know the game was over. And I go up to tell the lady, hey, you know, let me know my next game. Oh, honey, you got to play the game first. I go, I did. You know, my chin's here at the table. I did. I won. No, this game, go play the game. I go, I won, I'm good. You know, finally I convinced her, and she goes, you're done already? I go, yeah. So I had to wait because, you know, it was an hour before anybody else was ready. And so, but you know what happened that day? First of all, I had to make the first move to go in. I had to make the move to ask somebody to hold the chair while I climbed up. And while the guy's gawking, I had to I just got to play. I know I can play. And when I won, this boy goes to his mom and he says, come here, I want to show you somebody. And he goes, this is the girl that won, not the girl that's little. And I go, yeah, I won. It turned, the whole room turned because I won. I was no longer the little person. Yeah. But when you ask for help or you need to talk to your kitchen table, all of this is about making the first move, isn't it? So don't forget, all of you are so smart, so compassionate, and so passionate in what you do and who you care about. Don't forget to look in the mirror and say, I need to do this for me. And don't forget that, because we need you. We need you in this world to engineer everything that makes the world go around, right? Just think if all the presidents in the world were women. Yep. And one day we're going to have a woman. So make sure. It may be one of you. So don't forget to make the first move, even if you're not a chess player. So that's not me, by the way. I'm not that. I'm not. That's everything I want to be. Long leg, woo, you know, not a worry in the world. But life does favor the brave, doesn't it? Life favors the brave. And, you know, we do have to step out, and we have to, especially as a woman, we have to be forthright in a manner that people don't think, you know, that we're bees and all that. That we really know what we're talking about, that the family is, you know, all what we're about. Everything we do have to be brave. But we also have to know that we have others depending on us, but we have to know that others have our back. Don't forget that. People have your back. Even though we all are supposed to be brave and act like nothing's wrong, we are vulnerable, you know, women, we know that, and we have to teach our daughters that, but also the greatest gift you can give your daughter that my mom gave me was self-esteem. Yeah. We are meant to be at the table. We have a voice at the table, and we can run that table. And don't forget that you're not alone. That's really my point of this slide and all the others is, when we work together, it all works, And, men are coming around, slow, some of them, but they are, we have to have men at the table as well. We all work together, and that's what really makes all of this, work for us. But life does favor the brave. And it's all about your perspective and gratitude. The president was expanding on a program called 100,000 Strong, where students get to go overseas and study, and he asked 3 companies to come to the White House. Caterpillar was one of them. And as you can see, I'm looking up. I look up to everyone. We all have value. And it was a privilege to be there on behalf of Caterpillar. And it was because of our work that we were doing, especially for those in extreme poverty. But I always have gratitude, and I keep my perspective that, we are meant to help each other, and there's people helping me. And we always have to keep looking up because the view is great. And it's all about how you think and when you walk in a room, do you see problems or do you see things that are going well? And it's all in our perspective that I want you to keep in mind. And this is one of my favorite African proverbs. No matter how long the night, and I think you know what I'm referring to when things aren't going well, the dawn will break, and nothing can dim that light within us if we reach out and get around us whatever you need. So I want you, this whole group of women, I want you to embrace yourselves. You can do anything, that's why you're here. And I want us to move forward and continue to support each other. Because when women lift other women up, it doesn't get any better than that, does it? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Now I think Dana is going to join me. Hello?
All right. Thank you so much, Michele.
No, thank you. I'm not, this is the highlight. I love talking to this group. I'm so excited.
I think we can all give Michele a huge round of applause.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely inspirational. I have warm fuzzies. I'm sure everybody in the room does. I wanted to start with a little bit of a selfish question, though. You're not an engineer, so how did you find out about SWE, and how did we get so lucky to have you up here?
Yeah, I'm quite intimidated. I'm not smart enough to be an engineer. It's funny, though. In my life, though, I know what I need. Like, I needed something for my crutches. And I knew what I need, but I can't do it, so I have friends that can do that stuff. But being a caterpillar, it smells sweet, right? 3 letters. CATSWE is all the same. And so I knew a lot of my friends at Caterpillar are engineers and belong to SWE. And of course, yep. And so I've known about it. And they have meetings at CAT with SWE and the regional meetings. So I've always been aware of it. And all of it, because, there's a lot of brain power in this room. It's amazing. Anything I need, I could ask somebody, right? And you can do it for me. I'll tell you a quick funny story. I went to buy a car, and I didn't say anything to my parents, and I go to get the car one Saturday, and I come home, my dad goes, well, what'd you do today? I go, I bought a car. Well, what about the gear shift? Because I can't reach, where you do the drive and park. I can't reach it, and even if I could, I couldn't push the button. I go, Dad, I'm not worried. I know you can figure it out. You can figure out anything. And he's like, I go, I'm not worried. And, he ended up using a door hinge. He put it behind it, and then it came out this way, and he put a bicycle handle, and then it pushed the button in, and I could reach it. Isn't that brilliant? Like, see, I knew you could do it. He goes, don't ever do that again.
Did you ever do it again?
I did. But I knew he could. You know what I didn't know? I I didn't know the next car had the button on the top. My next car had it on the right. I said, we'll just flip the hinge, put it on top, and I push down, you know. We got this. I'm not worried. I'm really not. He was brilliant. He made my life, he was something else.
It sounds like he kept putting up with you, so that's something else for sure.
He did.
We have so many great questions coming in.
Okay, great.
You definitely captured the audience. I really wanted to start with this one. How do you create a vulnerable work culture?
You know, that's hard, isn't it? Because it's not in our nature. It's not. I don't care what people say. And, I'll be honest, it depends on your boss a lot. Is your boss empathetic, which is different than sympathetic? And I was fortunate, I had all good bosses when I needed something. And, what I found, though, if I go in and start with what my challenge is, not, this building doesn't work for me at all. I never started like that. I would always say, I'm having an issue with this. And so when I moved to a new building, I couldn't reach the paper towels in the bathroom. So every time I came out of the bathroom, it looked like I sweat, because it ran down my arm, right? And I was like, we build the world's biggest machines, and I can't reach the paper towels. So one day at lunch, my boss was a guy. I said, John, would you come with me for a second? He goes, yeah. So I said, hold on one second. I said, stand here. I went in the bathroom, made sure nobody was in there. I said, come in. He goes, I can't go in there. Yeah, nobody's in here. Come on, it'll be great. Come on. So he came in, and I said, now wash your hands. And he did. I said, now get on your knees. He goes, what? I said, get on your knees. He did. I said, now get a paper towel. And he went to get up. No, don't get up. He goes, well, I can't reach that. I go, yeah. He goes, I got your point. I go, great. He goes, it'll be done on Monday. Great. Yep. So, but if you have something like, unfortunately, harassment or something that's, all silliness aside, that is a much different environment. And, with anything in life, you have to get at least one advocate first and find out, that may be in your kitchen table, by the way. And find an advocate that can help you and help guide you through the minutia of a corporation or a private, any type, or not for any type of organization. And that is tough. But what I find, I will say, because I've been in some sticky situations, I do start with one advocate. And then they get an advocate. And then you start to get a chain. And then you start to get to the right person that you can start to entertain the conversation. But if you also put it on you, what you are feeling or what you need, and don't point out what's wrong with them or, whatever, I find that works too. Yeah.
No, that's great advice. I don't know if I'll ever have the guts to ask somebody to get on their knees in the bathroom, but I hope someday I do.
That's funny, yeah. Yep. One other time, when I built my house, my builder knew that, all the lights had to be here. So they had a stick, and they had a mark on it. And everything was to be at that size, the light switches and everything. And so whenever the workers come in, who's got the stick? Where's the stick? So then, when they went to find windows, the guy at the lumberyard kept trying to get my builder to use these windows where the latch was on the top. And I'd never been in a house where I could actually see out the windows. And so finally, my builder got aggravated at the place. He said, come here. Now, you think that window's going to work? He goes, yeah. Now, you get down on your knees, because I had my builder do it. So in the middle of this lumberyard, and he goes, now, open that window. He goes, well, I can't open that window. I go, neither can Michelle. And then he got it. When you put, walking in someone's shoes, when you really, truly try to do that, you're much more empathetic, aren't you? And that's very important. And I really try to do that myself. I truly do. And I'm not good at it all the time. But I really
think
try.
any of us are.
I really try to, be empathetic and also have gratitude for people. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of that came up in our podcast. If you have not listened to the podcast with Michelle, you absolutely should. Absolutely should. It was amazing. I really like this question. What was the hardest first move for you to make?
The hardest first move to make? The hardest one, to be honest, was when I was in graduate school and I had a real interview at IBM. That was obviously the most wanted co-op job. And I was used to working, I believe it or not, I had a paper route at 13. I had 13 papers, my sister and I. And in freshman year in college, I had 3 jobs. So I was working, but that was the cafeteria, and stuff like that. I was really nervous. I didn't know how I would be perceived. So when I get an interview, people don't know. Like Caterpillar didn't know my size, IBM didn't know. And I can tell in the first 15 seconds when I walk in if someone's gonna look past what they're seeing and look at me for, who I am. And so I was nervous going in, but I connected with the boss. I mean, it was amazing. And then later I found out, and I know this had an influence on it, but he had a child with a disability.
Oh.
And so I'm sure he was open, to that, to me especially. But we're still friends to this day. And I got put on the Caterpillar team, which helped me when I interviewed for CAT. So it all, things happen for a reason. And you never always know why, especially when something doesn't work out the way you want it. But then later you find out, holy cow, I'm glad I didn't get that or whatever. I'm really glad it worked out this way,
Yeah.
But it's hard at the time, isn't it?
It's super hard at the time.
I know, it's really hard. We all question fate sometimes.
We did have a question come in, and it's not filtered up to the top, but we want to know what your master's is in.
Business, it's an MBA.
Excellent. There's been a couple that have tied to this. I'm going to sum it up as, what's the best way to ask for help? How can we get over that fear of seeming weak or needy? What tips do you have? And
also just to show people you need help, right? Exactly. It's incredibly hard. And I have to do it every day, and there's things I still don't, like about it. So for me, which is a little different, if I want something done, I have to ask for it, or the door open or something like that. Or tomorrow at the airport, I don't put my bag up above the seat, right? So, and I don't get it down either. So, but there's certain times when it's really tough or it's personal. And, you say, I'm honest and I say, I need help. I cannot do this. And would you mind doing da-da-da-da-da? And most people know that that's incredibly hard. Mm-hmm. I will say at work, that's the hardest thing. That was always the hardest thing for me and I didn't need it very often. I would, like the paper towel, little things I needed and then things would be good. But I could never do the copying myself. So when I was a leader, I couldn't just hand someone's performance or anything to do with numbers of salaries or anything personal. At work it was much tougher, and especially with things I flat out couldn't do. I would go get somebody who I know, one, they would, be open to it, and two, that I knew I could trust, like they would go do the copying, even though I was standing there. But still, if you need help with a project or something's happening at home, let's say, you have a sick family member or you're having trouble with the spouse and you have to go do things, that you can't, how do you say that to someone that you just have a working relationship with, right? And you say, there were a couple of times at work with some sickness in my family, I have to put this first. There's nothing more important to me and I hope you understand. And then you get quiet. Silence is good. Sometimes we talk too much when we get nervous, right? And you keep going on. And a lot of times you don't have to. And I just say exactly what it is. I have to go do this. I'm going to be gone 2 days with my mom. And I said, I just wanted to let you know. And I wasn't asking necessarily. I was saying what I needed. And I wanted you to know, and I hope you understand. But it's hard.
It's very hard.
And especially if you don't have a boss that goes, you can't go.
Right.
Well, then we need to talk to somebody that can help us. Because yeah.
There's a lot of working parents in this room, and I think we can all take that advice to heart.
Well, but you want to be at the games, you want to be at the dance recitals, right? It's their birthday, you're going to Chuck E. Cheese. You got to get there ahead.
We're not going to Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah. You're going somewhere though, right?
Somebody is.
Or it's worse that you have the birthday party at your house. You have to get ready.
My kids don't know that Chuck E. Cheese is open since COVID.
Oh, there you go. It works well with the kids, doesn't it? But also I think it's good when, like at our kitchen table as kids, my parents' whole, point was, what happened at school? What did you do? Do you need help? How did you deal with it? Is there anything we can do? When you also have a relationship and an openness, but I had a couple bosses that I could no more be open with them than I could a rock. I mean, it just wasn't happening. And, but there were times when I do find with people like that, when you give them a heads up that this may be coming, and, this is non-negotiable for me. And so I need to find a way to make it work, and I need you to help me with that. And then they feel like, oh, I can help. When you view it as not a partnership, but a collaboration, that I need you to help me with this, because they know that you're going to do well for them when they ask you for something. And it plays both ways, but asking for help at work was by far the hardest thing for me, and I never liked it.
We do have a comment in here. I want to make sure to at least share it. It's not a question. It says, "We love you, Michelle. You are smart enough to be an engineer."
Thank you.
We'll see. This might be our last question. It depends how long your answer is.
I'm going to be windy.
Uh-oh, wait, it just jumped. Oh, here it is. Okay. Thank you so much, Michelle. You are absolutely, amazingly inspirational. What was one of the happiest moments of your life?
Happiest moments? Professionally was obviously the foundation. And personally, when you graduate, your parents are there. Yep.
I think we have people that want to help you out here.
Oh.
What is your airline and flight time tomorrow?
Yeah. I don't think you're going to want to help. We have a 5 a.m. flight.
Ooh. I know there's some folks out there on really early flights, so let's get the airline.
United. And, there you go. I fly United.
And you're flying to?
Because I live in Peoria, and there's only 2 flights to Peoria since COVID, if I leave at 5 a.m., I can catch the 9 o'clock flight from Chicago to Peoria, which is 20
5
minutes.
5 a.m. to Chicago.
Yeah, so I'm 5 a.m. to Chicago. There you go.
You have a support team here.
There you go, thank you. And then, or I didn't get home till 10 p.m. at night, and we all know what happens on the last flight of the day. So, what I'm doing is I'm actually staying at the hotel connected to the airport.
Nice.
And I understand there's a tram, and this is like my engineer and me. When I get there, I'm going to go test out the tram. Is it really accessible? And how long does it take me? That tells me what time I have to get up. So it's funny. And I would tell you on United, you're talking about asking for help. This is a real embarrassment. Once in a while on a plane, you have to go to the bathroom. So I have to go to the bathroom, and I can't reach the lock. So I asked the flight attendant, I said, hey, would you mind watching the door? Yeah, no problem. But, they're busy. They're the busiest people on the plane. And I'm sitting there doing my thing, and the door opens, and it's a guy. And I went, hello. What else is there to say? I couldn't say, can I help you? So, and of course he's mortified. You know, the flight attendant got busy. And the bad thing is I stayed in there an extra 5 minutes because I was embarrassed. I was like, what am I gonna do? I said, it's okay. What are the odds of him sitting by me? So I come out and I'm walking to my seat and he's right across from me. And you know, this is a teaching moment for me, seriously, because he was, you know, it was horrible. He was so embarrassed, and I didn't want him to be embarrassed. So I walked up, and you know, he's looking down, and I walk over. I go, are you gonna remember this as much as I am? Now, he's not talking about it, but I talk about it. And he said, oh, yes. So we talked the rest of the flight. It was really good. I'm a sports person. We talked. It was great. And you know what? When the plane landed, and, you know, obviously he saw someone put my bag up. And, you know, everybody stands up and everything. And he goes, Michelle, may I get your bag down? Aww. And, you know, that's a teaching moment. And so I really take that to heart. That's like, I would have stayed in that bathroom the whole flight if I could have. Because I was, you know, I mean, what do you say except hello? And, you know, and he leaned over before he left and he goes, you know, Michelle, thank you. And I said, he goes, I appreciate what you did. And I said, well, I appreciate, you know, you too. And he goes, you mean opening the door? I said, no. I said, but don't tell your wife. I said, but you know, the chit-chat and you know, just the nice flight and getting my bag and I go, you're such a gentleman. And he gave me a hug. Aww. And you know, now when you experience something, like when you go buy a car or you're interested in a car, don't you see a lot of them on the street after that? Well, now when he sees someone who needs help, he's gonna go up and help them, isn't he? In any way, if it's a mother with a crying baby, any type of help. And so, you know, asking for help, ooh. So now when I go, I have a friend stand by the door.
That's kind of smart. Good piece of advice there. Michelle,
Dad is looking up, you know, looking up at him.
Have so many questions in here.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to do one more follow-up podcast after this?
Oh, yes.
Excellent. Who's excited for that?
And I'll also be I'll be at the thing after this. You can tell them.
So we've got, Michelle has her book, and you don't have it with you, correct? But there it is. We've got it up on the screen. Go look it up. It's going to be an amazing book. We are about out of time for today's session, but do you have any parting thoughts you want to leave us with?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not kidding. This has been such a privilege with so many women. We have to continue to, you know, lift each other up in the world. And I thank Dana and Stacy and the sponsors and everybody for having me. I will be at the reception over at the Hilton if you want to chat or anything. And remember, you know, take yourself as the #1 priority so that you're good for everybody around you, because women really have to take care of themselves. And also don't be afraid to ask for help. And think about your kitchen table and the kitchen table that you're a part of as well, because we all need each other and we thrive because of each other. And I thrive because of all the work that you guys do. You make my life easier. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I don't think we've got a better way we could have closed out WE22, right?
Thank you.
Now, the fun does not stop here. I know this was really inspirational and warm, fuzzy, happy feelings, but we have our closing session over at the Hilton starting in about 15 minutes. So let me get this going just the right way for all of you. I think the sweet boutique people who were selling these, please join me there. I will be there to get the closing celebration kicked off. You can see I'm already in my apron. I've heard there's going to be plenty of cake. I see lots more cowboy hats going in the audience here. There's going to be food. There's going to be obviously cake. Who doesn't like cake? Interactive elements with the cake. And I'm told that there will be a mechanical bull. I hear that was a strong requirement from the staff. So we will have a mechanical bull. You don't have to get on it.
Ooh, I'll be on.
Oh, Michelle's getting on. We will offer our help for you.
Yeah.
As a reminder, you will have until January 20th of 2023 to enjoy the recordings of this year's sessions. It has been my absolute pleasure and honor as your FY23 president to be here and host these keynote sessions. They have all been so amazing. I feel so touched to be here and to be able to share them with you. There will be a survey that comes out after the conference. Please take the time to take that survey. Let us know what we can do to make this even better next year. In my mind, I don't know how we can make it much better, but I'm sure you all have great ideas, and it'll continue to be fantastic. I hope to see you all at WE23 in Los Angeles in just over a year from now. So let's go ahead to the WE22 closing session.